Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. IRS issues guidance regarding the retroactive termination of employee retention credit. But first, an attempt at a joke. I apologize in advance. After showing concern during the last IRS audit, wondering how much more money the government was about to take this time, the IRS agent said to me, "Don't worry, paying taxes in the United States is a privilege. You should pay with a smile." I felt much better and gave a big, relieved smile. I had thought they wanted me to pay with more money. But then, at the end of the audit, the auditor finally got mad and yelled at me saying, "Wipe that stupid smile off your face and just give us your money." Honestly, dealing with taxpayers like you is the reason why the government decided to take your money using an inflation tax these days instead of arguing over a stupid tax code in the first place. We don't need a reason to take your money. I can't wait until we have direct access to your bank account so we no longer have to communicate at all. IR 2021-242, December 6, 2021, Washington. The Internal Revenue Service today issued guidance for employers regarding the retroactive termination of employee retention credit. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which was enacted on November 15, 2021, amended the law so that the employee retention credit applies only to wages paid before October 1st, 2021, unless the employer is a recovery startup business. Notice 2021-65, there's a link to that here, applies to employers that paid wages after September 30th, 2021 and received an advance payment of the employee retention credit for those wages or reduced employment tax deposits in anticipation of the credit for the fourth quarter of 2021, but are now ineligible for the credit due to the change in the law. The notice also provides guidance regarding how the rules apply to recovery startup businesses during the fourth quarter of 2021. Employers who received advance payments. Generally, employers that are not recovery startup businesses and received advance payments for fourth quarter wages of 2021 will avoid failure to pay penalties if they repay those amounts by the due date of their applicable employment tax returns. Employers who reduced employment tax deposits, employers that reduced deposits on or before December 20th, 2021 for wages paid during the fourth quarter of 2021 in anticipation of employee retention credit and that are now recovery startup business are not recovery startup businesses will not be subject to failure to deposit penalties with respect to the retained deposits if 1. The employer reduces deposits in anticipation of the employee retention credit consistent with the rules in Notice 2021-24. There's a link to that notice here. 2. The employer deposits the amounts initially retained in anticipation of the employee retention credit on or before the relevant due date for wages paid on December 31st, 2021, regardless of whether the employer actually pays wages on that date. Deposit due dates will vary based on the deposit schedule of the employer. And 3, the employer reports the tax liability resulting from the termination of the employer's employee retention credit on the applicable employment tax return or schedule that includes the period from October 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. Employers should refer to the instructions to the applicable employment tax return or schedule for additional information on how to report the tax liability. Due to the termination of the employee retention credit for wages paid in the fourth quarter of 2021 for employers that are not recovery startup businesses, failure to deposit penalties are not waived for these employers if they reduce deposits after December 20th, 2021. If an employer does not qualify for relief under this notice, it may reply to a notice about a penalty with an explanation the IRS will consider reasonable cause relief. More information for businesses seeking coronavirus-related relief can be found at irs.gov. There's a link to these notices here so you can look into it in more depth if you are in this situation, and there'll be a link to this in the description.